The story of Cain, the first fratricide according to the Holy Scriptures, is a narrative that has captured the imagination and interest of many throughout the ages. His name is synonymous with betrayal and evil, as he was the one who committed the first murder in history, killing his brother Abel. This heinous act brought upon him a divine curse, to wander aimlessly through life, marked by his crime. This story, which has been a subject of curiosity and study, leads us to wonder about the later life of Cain, his descendants, and the impact they had on biblical history. In this biblical study we present to you today, we will delve into the life of Cain and his lineage. Before we continue, we remind you to subscribe to our channel and activate notifications so you don't miss any new videos. Our exploration begins with verses 16 to 24 of chapter 4 of Genesis, where we find a genealogy of Cain, one among many that appear throughout the Bible. Often, genealogies may seem boring or irrelevant, but they contain a wealth of theological and cultural meaning. They help us understand the timeline of the most important descendants of a period, the relationships between different peoples and nations, and sometimes point to a key figure in the history of a nation. These lists of names, although they may seem tedious or difficult to pronounce, are fundamental to understanding divine purpose in the history of a family or people. Genesis 4:16 to 24 tells us that Cain, after being expelled from the presence of God, settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. There, Cain met his wife, who conceived and gave birth to Enoch. Cain built a city, which he named in honor of his son. This action of Cain, building a city, is significant because it contrasts with his curse of leading a wandering life. The word Nod comes from the Hebrew Nod, meaning wandering, which reflects the punishment imposed on Cain for his crime. The exact location of Nod is a mystery. Some theories suggest that it was east of Jordan, while others believe it could be a region in Arabia, or even a symbolic place representing a nomadic life. The lineage of Cain continued with Irad, Mehujael, Methuselah, and finally Lamech, who took 2 wives, Adah and Zillah. From this union were born Jabal, Jubal, Tubal-Cain, and their sister Naamah. Jabal was the father of those who dwell in tents and raise livestock, Jubal was the father of all those who play the harp and flute, and Tubal-Cain was an artisan of all works of bronze and iron. These descriptions show us that Cain's descendants were pioneers in various areas, such as music, livestock, and metallurgy, contributing significantly to the evolution of human society. Despite the curse that weighed upon Cain, we see that his descendants had a considerable impact on cultural and technological development. The story of Cain and his descendants is a tale of redemption and legacy, showing how despite errors and curses, humanity can prosper and contribute to society. This biblical study invites us to reflect on the consequences of our actions, and the capacity for overcoming and contributing to society, even in the most adverse circumstances. Cain, known for being the first fratricide according to the Scriptures, dwelled in the land of Nod after his crime. This is where he met his wife, a mysterious character who has led many to wonder about her origin. Reviewing chapter 5 of Genesis, we discover that Adam and Eve had more sons and daughters after Abel, Seth, and Cain. It is mentioned that Adam lived 800 years after the birth of Seth, and during this time, he fathered more sons and daughters. This information is crucial for understanding that Cain and Abel were not the only children of Adam and Eve. In this context, it is likely that Cain's wife was one of his sisters. During those early times of humanity, social and divine norms allowed marriage between members of the same family, as there were no other options for perpetuating the human species. However, with the growth of society and the passing of years, these practices were prohibited. Cain, upon meeting his wife in the land of Nod, had a son whom they named Enoch. The name Enoch comes from the Hebrew and can be interpreted as dedicated or sacred. It is believed that Cain chose this name as a way of seeing the birth of his son as a new beginning in his life, marked by wandering and curse. Despite his fate as a wanderer, his son could establish himself and prosper, which led Cain to build a city in honor of Enoch, a symbolic act of dedication and an attempt to start a new life despite his sinful past. It is important to clarify that this Enoch should not be confused with the Enoch who was an ancestor of Noah, who was taken to heaven without seeing death. With the foundation of the city of Enoch by Cain, we witness the beginning of urban life, a milestone in human history. The establishment of this city represents a significant shift from a nomadic to a settled way of life, and it symbolically marks the attempt of Cain to create a legacy and a future for his descendants, despite his past actions and their consequences. This part of the biblical narrative provides insight into the early development of human civilization, highlighting how even those under a divine curse could still contribute to societal and cultural advancements. In the story of Cain and his descendants, we see a complex interplay of sin, redemption, and human resilience. Cain's life story goes beyond his infamous deed, extending to the contributions and developments made by his lineage. This narrative invites reflection on the themes of legacy, the enduring impact of one's actions, and the possibilities for redemption and contribution, despite the burdens of the past. The biblical account of Cain's descendants, therefore, offers a rich tapestry of human experience, illustrating how individuals and societies evolve and adapt, often in the face of significant challenges and limitations. It serves as a reminder of the complexities of human nature and history, and the ever-present potential for growth and change, even in the most unlikely circumstances. Since then, cities have been centers of economic and cultural influence, but they have also brought with them complexities and challenges for modern man. The biblical account continues with the lineage of Cain up to the 7th generation, from Adam to Lamech. We see Irad, Mehujael, Methuselah, and Lamech, whose names and lives have their own meanings. For example, Irad could be interpreted as the city man, reflecting his urban life in contrast to Cain's wandering. Mehujael, whose name means smitten by God, could indicate a transgression and divine punishment, reflecting Cain's negative influence. Methuselah, with a name suggesting a violent character, shows how names and genealogies can reflect the characteristics or destinies of their bearers. This genealogy of Cain shows not only the expansion of humanity but also how the actions and decisions of our ancestors can influence future generations. The names and stories of this family line reflect a legacy of complexity, redemption, and continual human transformation. The figure of Lamech in the Bible is notable for being the first known polygamist in human history. The term polygamist refers to a person who is married to 2 or more spouses at the same time or maintains sexual relationships with multiple people. The biblical account, found in Genesis, tells us that Lamech took 2 women for himself, Adah and Zillah. This fact represents a deviation from the original model of marriage established by God, which was the union of one man and one woman into one flesh. Adah and Zillah, the wives of Lamech, had children who excelled in various areas. Adah gave birth to Jabal, who is recognized as the father of those who live in tents and raise cattle. This role is significant as Jabal not only invented tents, suitable for nomadic life, but also became a pioneer in the art of breeding and managing different types of livestock, a practice that granted him wealth and status in his time. On the other hand, Zillah gave birth to Tubal-Cain, an artisan of works in bronze and iron, and to Naamah. The names of these women have particular meanings in Hebrew. Adah, meaning adorned, suggests beauty and physical attraction. Zillah, whose name means shadowed, could refer to her skin tone. Naamah, meaning pleasant, is also associated with beauty and visual delight. These names reflect how women were primarily valued for their physical appearance in that society, rather than for their virtues or character. Jubal, the brother of Jabal and also a son of Lamech and Zillah, is known as the father of all who play the harp and flute. This reference to music leads us to an interesting parallel with the story of angels in Christian tradition. It is believed that the archangel Gabriel was God's messenger, and Michael was known as a warrior. In contrast, the fallen angel, known as Satan, was originally in charge of music in heaven before his rebellion and expulsion. This narrative of Lamech and his sons, and the connection with angels, offers us a view of how human culture and society have been intrinsically linked to practices and traditions that have evolved over time. While the figures of Jabal and Jubal represent innovation and cultural development in music and nomadic lifestyle, the figure of Lamech and his polygamy reflect the moral complexities and challenges that have accompanied humanity since its beginnings. The relationship between music and faith is a topic of great depth and relevance in human history. Music, according to scriptures and Christian tradition, is a creation of God, originally designed for worshiping Him. However, over time, this art has evolved and diversified, leading to a wide range of musical genres. Some believers argue that genres such as reggaeton, rock, trap, and metal have been influenced by Satan, diverting music from its original purpose of worshiping God. This perspective suggests that such musical styles are not pleasing to God, and therefore, Christians should not listen to secular music, including romantic ballads which, although they may sound appealing, could contain subliminal messages. In the biblical narrative, Jubal is recognized as the first musician. There is a theory suggesting that Satan may have influenced Jubal's music, making it sensual and displeasing to God. It's speculated that Jubal's music may have contributed to the corruption of Seth's descendants by Cain's descendants. This reflects concerns about how music can impact morality and human actions. On the other hand, Tubal Cain, the son of Zillah and another relevant biblical character, was a pioneer in metallurgy, developing techniques for working with bronze and iron. These technological advancements were fundamental for the evolution of humanity, but there is also fear that they might have been used to manufacture weapons and increase violence. Tubal Cain's knowledge has even been linked to ancient legends and deities like Vulcan or Vulcanus in Roman mythology, the god of metallurgy and fire. The figure of Lamech in the Bible is particularly interesting. He is described as a man of sins, crimes, and arrogance, rather than for his virtues. Lamech recited a poem comparing himself with Cain and justifying an act of violence as self-defense. His story reflects how human nature can distort and misinterpret divine teachings to justify immoral acts. This underscores the idea that humanity, despite receiving blessings and knowledge from God, often uses them for selfish and destructive purposes. In summary, these biblical accounts offer a perspective on how different aspects of human culture, such as music and technology, can be used for both good and evil. The story of Jubal and Tubal Cain, along with that of Lamech, illustrates the complexity of human nature and the constant struggle between good and evil, worship and corruption, in the development of human civilization. Lamech, a figure in Cain's genealogy in the scriptures, is portrayed as a man with no respect for human life, evidenced in his act of killing someone for a wound. His arrogance is further highlighted when he proclaims that unlike Cain, who would be avenged 7 times, he would be avenged 490 times, 70 times 7. This behavior shows a progressive degeneration in humanity, where autonomy and disobedience to God reach extreme levels. Lamech's violence was not limited to external acts. It's said that he was also violent with his own family, including his wives and children like Jabal, Jubal, Tubal Cain, and Naamah. Additionally, there are theories that he was possibly the murderer of Cain. The poem Lamech recites is interpreted as a justification for his murder. Cain's descendants, including Lamech, are portrayed as creators of metal musical instruments, but in contrast to the original divine purpose of music, these were used to celebrate sinful behaviors. Contrasting with Cain's descendants, Genesis chapter 4 verse 26 shows a change with the birth of Enoch, the son of Seth, when men began to invoke the name of Jehovah. This implies that while Cain's descendants were moving away from God, Seth's lineage sought to re-establish connection with the divine. The New Testament also refers to Cain's behavior. In 1 John 3:12, Cain is identified as of the evil one, due to his evil and wicked deeds. Moreover, in the Gospel of John 8:39 and onwards, Jesus confronts Jews who did not believe in him, telling them that if they were truly Abraham's children, they would do Abraham's works. Instead, he accuses them of following the desires of their true father, the devil. This parallel between Cain's conduct and that of the unbelievers in Jesus' time underscores the teaching that not all are children of God in the spiritual sense. True children of God strive to do his just and perfect will, while those who do not are considered children of the evil one. This message is a call to reflection and constant effort in the Christian life. As the Apostle Paul mentions, we often want to do good but end up doing evil. This human dilemma underscores the importance of continuously striving in faith, seeking to reach the unity of faith and the knowledge of the Son of God, to a mature man, to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. If you have found value in this analysis, please like the video and share it with your friends, family, and anyone interested in learning more about these biblical topics. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future discussions and analyses. Until next time, and may God bless you.